What is up, everybody? I'm NoLucksGiven, and today we are going to look at what is potentially my greatest Pumpkin King game. Pumpkin King was probably just changed from a 5-drop to a 6-drop, recording this a little bit before that patch actually becomes live. But I do think that this will probably come out the day after, and I did talk about that change a little bit in my video yesterday, but in this video today I just wanted to showcase what I think is my greatest Pumpkin King game. And one thing that works really well with the Great Pumpkin King is Grandmother, because you get to give +5/+5 to all of those things that you are spawning. And Grandmother's interesting because she doesn't really care that Pumpkin King is on 5. You still need to hit 6 in order to use her hero power, but I do think that overall it just made her stronger and just gave her like a pretty good power spike, and you're going to see some other stuff is going to come together well for us in this game. I'm going to start by picking up a bunch of evil units, and that's somewhat intentional. We are planning on building to evil things eventually, but that's also just kind of what came out. That's just how the cards fell down. And that's going to do well for us as we are able to maintain our 48 health. And this is a pretty good shop for us too, I think. Mad Mim plus Polywoggle, I think. Try to get the Slay on the Polywoggle. Could try to delay the Polywoggle Slay for a turn as well, but I do think that it is probably worth just going for, seeing what happens. And we do get that Slay here indeed, and we're also going to be able to get a win, as Black Cat Mad Mim is just a really strong combination. So happy to be able to pick that up. Our Polywoggle is going to transform into a donkey, so this video is looking very similar to how yesterday's video started, with all of the summons going on at the start of the game. I do think that I would like to pick up this Ogre Princess here because it can flip the Lonely Prince. It's like a pretty good use of our 5 gold, and then I will just be supporting the Ogre Princess and the Black Cat in this combat, and that one's pretty straightforward. We are going to get a Slay on the Ogre Princess, so this combat starts off pretty well for us. And I don't think we're going to win it. Yeah, we're just going to wind up barely losing it, but still a pretty close one. That Celestial Tiger with a locked chest already is pretty scary, though. We do pick up a Cinderella, so that's a reasonable free unit to be able to pick up. We'll be able to grab a treasure off of that, and I'll go for the Spinning Gold. And now what I'm doing is I really like trying to find some tier 3 treasures, because Ancient Sarcophagus is just so good. We're basically probably going to force Pumpkin King, and so trying to find the Ancient Sarcophagus I think is going to be good for us. I'm going to wind up cutting the Black Cat here, I think. I think this is what I stick with. We're playing against an 18 health opponent right now. I'm not even sure if they're connected. Like, this might not even matter, but I want to give us the chance to get a little bit greedy and try to slay with either this Ogre Princess or the Kitty Cupper. So more often than not, I think, and if I remember this correctly, I do believe that my opponent is just not connected and we don't get any slays at all. So yeah, it didn't matter, but it's still worth at least considering. Put those units to the front in case we might be able to get a Slay. Few options here. Could pick up the Queen of Hearts because I do want to get evil things, or I could roll for Donkey. I could also take a Lonely Prince. It's a double, and I'm going to wind up rolling for Donkey. And we find it pretty quickly, so that is pretty good. Don't get an insane spell here, but Merlin's Hat is fine. Basically, I take the Merlin's Hat because I think it could, one, allow us to cast this Worm's Root already, but also it could allow us to cast some XP spells, and that could wind up being pretty good for us. I'm going to wind up reordering my board slightly, so I want to figure out what my board is going to look like before I figure out, I mean, I'm probably buying this Queen of Hearts, but I want to figure out exactly what my configuration is going to be, and this ultimate configuration isn't going to have too many evil units on it, probably still good enough. It's tough. It's a little tough. I do think it's probably worth it, again, just because I want to get some... No, I'm going to roll against it, actually. And I think from here I wind up rolling down, though now I actually like the Wicked Witch. Yeah. Okay, this is fine. I'm not sure if it's better than the Queen of Hearts, but it's a comparable amount of stats and could potentially be good for us here. Now the Black Cat gets to trade 2 for 1, so could be good. I don't particularly care one way or the other, Queen of Hearts versus the Wicked Witch, but regardless, either way, getting some tier 3 treasures I do think is going to be good. We are going to lose this combat most likely. Yeah, just barely losing this combat, but we're going to take 4 damage and drop below 40. Not the worst thing in the world, considering we had that little bit of a buffer to work with in the first place. I go for the Masquerade Ball, try to rip in early 5. A little bit premature, I think, but now I think I should be taking this Queen of Hearts. Yeah, and I'm going to go for it here, so that's why I misremembered and thought we took the Queen of Hearts last combat, but it really is just a good evil unit that we do want to be picking up, and right now, I think I want to be rolling for some more good evil units, try to find another Wicked Witch or another Queen of Hearts. I can still sell this Prized Pig and probably sell the Lonely Prince as well, and try to get that in. And Wish Upon a Star seems like a pretty good spell to try to pick up. I'd also like to pick up this Wicked Witch and potentially the Monster Book as well. So, is there a way that I can play more this combat? It's tricky. I could sell the Prize Pig and the Lonely Prince, but the Queen of Hearts is just kind of a tough one to play because, like, where would I even put this Wicked Witch in? I'm going to wind up picking up the Wicked Witch just to use the 1 gold that we had in that shop. But I'm not super inclined to play it this turn. Really just using it to try to find ourselves a sarcophagus. The Monster Book that's in the shop is also somewhat tempting, but we are going to see me roll past that without picking that one up too, because I really just want to spend my gold on XP, pumpkins eventually, and 3 drops. I do think the Mummy's good enough to pick up. So I'll go Wish Upon a Star and probably just take the Fairy Tale here when the Fairy Tale works so well with the Mummy that I think it's probably worth it. It's not anything great, but some additional stats on the Mummy I think is good, and that's going to give us enough evil units to actually play the Queen of Hearts too. So I'll pick up the Mummy, and then I can spend a few gold rolling and try to... I'm like debating picking up the Monster Book, but I think rolling is slightly better. We find the Wicked Witch, looking for Ancient Sarcophagus. We don't get it, but Eye of Ares is actually pretty good too. And it's much more reasonable when you consider the fact that I know I'm going to want to go into a pumpkin strategy. And speaking of pumpkin strategy, it's going to make this turn a little bit more awkward, but I am going to lock for this XP. And the reason for that is Grandmother does still scale really well off XP. You get a huge power spike once you hit level 6 and are then able to give all of your units the buff by turning into the Big Bad Wolf. I don't... totally forgot what I was going to say. The as I say hi to Butterscotch there, they're very friendly with the emotes. Eye of Ares actually just going to do a ton of work for us though here, and that's absolutely wonderful. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I kind of want to spend all of my gold on pumpkins this turn, and by locking, I kind of waste 3 gold. 1, because we're going to have to roll in our first shop, and 2, because we purchased this XP. But I think it's still potentially worth it, because now we are level 6 next turn. The rest of our gold this turn, I probably want to spend trying to pick up some pumpkins. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick up not one pumpkin, but actually going to find a second pumpkin here on 5.2. So let's sell some units and throw this pumpkin in as well. And that is just going to be really powerful for us, because we're going to have the grandmother buff next turn, but it also just works out really well with the Eye of Ares. Now we're actually doing something with that, as opposed to just using it with Black Cat and Mummy. And I'm going to go full evil on this board and do some nice stuff, deal some damage to this APOC. We've got APOC and Grandmother leading the lobby, but I am significantly ahead in XP on this APOC. I'm now 3 XP up on the whole lobby, about to hit 6 while everybody else is about to hit 5. So I found pumpkins and reached level 6 before the rest of the lobby could even find pumpkins. So absolutely fantastic grandmother game here, and we're not done. We got to see what more else we can do with it. APOC did buy some XP, but they've got a bunch of Romeos and no Juliet, so that is looking really, really awkward for them, unfortunately. And yeah, just definitely awkward. They're going to save themselves a little bit of damage by not cracking our second pumpkin, but now we're 6, and all of our units get +6/+6, so that is pretty wonderful. Slight consideration there for the Ogre Princess, but I'd rather roll and pick up some evil 3s. That's just going to be a lot more of a benefit to us. Basically, the stuff I'm picking up at this point, Knighthood's a consideration. I think I roll past it, though. I think I want to spend all of my gold on 5s and 3s, because that is where the good treasures lie. Therein lie the good treasures for the grandmother. And I do like the Oni King here, but 5s are just going to be so much cheaper. Monster Book, also kind of cool. We wind up getting a knighthood on a Queen of Hearts, so now we can't triple that, which is honestly maybe even a little bit awkward. I do think Monster Book is good too, and I misspoke a little bit. 4s are also good, and 4s can get a summoning portal. So like the treasure trifecta is summoning portal, ancient sarcophagus, mimic chest. But you'd also settle for replacing any of those with a monkey's paw, and those are the best ones to find. So that is what we are going to be looking for. And then there's also some like tertiary treasures in there, like Ring of Rage or something like that. But with double pumpkin, I got to be feeling good already. And you can see this Lancelot is just trading with our Mummy. We are really dealing a ton of damage to this lobby, and we're going to even hit them for a little bit more. It's always nice when you can crack a pumpkin, and this is, I think, another one of the reasons that pumpkin is kind of deserved of the nerf, is the ability to just hit people for way more damage than you should representationally. Mimic Chest seems great. We don't have any of the other busted treasures, but Eye of Ares is fine. And I kind of like to keep the Eye of Ares with the Mimic Chest. Eye of Ares is probably the next thing to go, but we could also toss the hat at some point too. Monster Book starts to look a lot better now that we already have one. Could also pick up the tree, but I think I'm just going to take this Monster Book and roll. There is the opportunity for Nyan Sea Terror as well. Now that we have already made a 5 out of the... or we've already made an upgrade out of the pumpkin, it's a lot less likely that we're going to be able to complete another pumpkin triple and thus be able to pick up something like Monkey's Paw. So we could consider Nyan Sea Terrors as well, but I want to just make sure I'm pressing my advantage on this lobby as much as I can, because we are a full 3 XP up on the rest of the lobby. So like these players are still, I think this is still 6.2 if I am remembering correctly. So we'll see. This Celestial Tiger did have a locked chest earlier, and they've turned it into a Sark and a pair of pants. not particularly impressive. The Sark is good, and especially doubled Sark on Sea Terror. That is going to be strong, but it doesn't look like they are going to have enough, as we just have too much stats with our Eye of Ares. It's going to mean that everything is trading, and when everything trades and then you also have a pumpkin, that means that you wind up winning. So we hit our opponent for 24 damage there. Bazinga, almost the full 27. And yeah, everything trades, and then the mummies are also triggering. So all of that is really good. Monster Book here. Could go for the True Love's Kiss before we pick up the Monster Book, but I don't really think we want any of this. I mean, Moonsong Horn is an upgrade, to be sure, but I don't think it's worth 2 gold. And for that reason, I'm just going to skip. I throw a True Love's Kiss, maybe something cool comes out of that. Not really anything in particular. You know what, though? Lancelot, it's 1 hit off. And we've got so much stats already that I do think it's worth picking that up for a tier 5 treasure that will then get doubled. That seems pretty sweet. It actually seems really sweet. Enough that I want to evil twin this Lancelot. So I think we're going to get a little bit silly with this one and try to throw an evil twin on Lancelot. Oh no. Oh yes. I was like really debating it there, and then I think when you roll away from it, it's a sign. And one thing that's tricky is if the Lancelot slays and upgrades right now, then I kind of locked for no reason, because I'm going to be using the Lancelot to replace the Lancelot treasure to replace the Wizard's hat, which means that the evil twin is going to be so much more expensive. And don't get me wrong, it's a sweet play, but the reason that it's really tempting to me is because of how cheap this evil twin is. This combat looked scary, but we are able to get some nice scams, and also Lancelot is unable to slay. We are able to take out the fallen angel here, but everything went wrong for us in that combat, which means that everything went right. We get to evil twin this Lancelot, and now just with a little bit more stats, we can literally just pick up like a Mad Mim here, and both of these Lancelots will activate. Sure, Baba Yaga, it costs 5, but this gets us 2 tier 5 treasures, and then we'll have the Mimic Chest. This definitely seems worth it. We're also up against the Ghost, so we can afford to get a little bit silly right now. And hopefully we are basically just digging, hoping that one of these tier 5 treasures turns into a monkey's paw, and that gives us a bunch of stats. It'll give us enough stats that I think Doom Breath will be worth playing, especially with the Eye of Ares, monkey's paw, and then the buff from the Big Bad Wolf. You can see this Doom Breath is already quite large, and we're looking at potentially another +12/+12 on top of that. We should be able to find something good with these lances. I kind of just want to roll for more Pumpkin Kings, but I do think I wind up relocking this Doom Breath shop at the very end. No, I don't. Okay. Okay, well, spoiler alert, I find another Doom Breath later. We're going to get 2 tier 5 treasures here to start things off for this combat, and my opponent's actually decently strong. They are going to take us out a little bit with Robin Wood, but I do think our pumpkin combined with the monster book and everything else that we got going on is going to be enough that we are going to be able to win this one. So pumpkin is going to spawn a bunch of stuff for us, and after this, I mean, I don't think Apoc or Sharon is going to die, so we're probably still looking at 2 more games, but you got to feel pretty confident with the fact that we've still got 38 HP. So we can actually still lose this, and we can even still lose this combat to the Ghost. So pretty awkward, but it was worth it to get 2 looks at tier 5 treasures. Evil Eye, it's cute that we've got the Mimic Chest and the Baba Yaga. Helm of the Ugly Gosling, also kind of cute, but I actually like the Eye of Ares. So I'm going to skip this treasure and hope that the second one brings us something good after debating this for a little bit here. And the second one gives us Monkey's Paw. So let's grab the Monkey's Paw. Let's toss the Merlin's hat. and then let's see what else we can do. Still sitting on 31 health, so still pretty healthy. But we got to figure out something else to do with this combat. We're going to bench the Lancelot, and actually an evil Lancelot kind of gets to stick around. It's kind of cute. I think that I'll wind up cutting the Baba Yaga. No, I cut the evil Lancelot. I've had enough of you, evil Lancelot. And then I roll, try to find something in these last few seconds, really just looking for Mummy, looking for Pumpkin, Doom Breath. Okay, I'm going to pick it up this time. I just lock and float the Doom Breath to the next one, but you can see 37 attack on a Doom Breath that we don't have to scale. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. My opponent with some decent treasures here, but we get the pig on their Lancelot, so that's going to take out a bunch of their stats. We've got to just find a way to scam their Jormungand. That's really all they've got working with, and Medusa is certainly enough to scam. So that is going to be enough to win this combat, and we're even going to hit my opponent for some nice damage. No, this pumpkin isn't going to pop open. So just for 13, down to 3, we're going to have to play up against them again, and we're going to play up against them again immediately as the APOC goes down to the ghost. That APOC was doing some weird stuff with the fact that they were... sorry, I'm just kind of thinking about everything else that's going on. They had all those Romeos, remember? And no Juliet. Monkey's Paw's really good, and I probably want to play into it, especially doubled. Pick up a Wretched Mummy in the last second of this shop, and now we can play a Mimicked Ancient Sarcophagus, and that's just too sweet to pass up. So, gonna play that, and then I'm probably gonna wind up playing this Ashwood Elm that we just got. Or I could play the Baba Yaga. It's just a ranged unit, but after looking at my opponent's comp, I do think the Ashwood is going to be better for us. It also summons slightly higher leveled stuff against, like, now we could summon an Apple Tree. I wind up going for the for Glory, which is totally wrong. You should never go for Glory if the combat that would win you the game if you win. But I was thinking in that last second, Ashwood is really good to have because we've got to scam. Basically, my opponent's entire comp is these 2 units. They've got this Lancelot and they've got this Jormungand. So we basically just have to come up with 2 scams, and if we can do that, we can take them out. And 2 scams across 2 pumpkins, it's definitely doable. The rest, we'll deal with that with Sark triggers and the like. Honestly, the Sark isn't even that important, but there's one scam. That is really important as long as we get to attack with it eventually. And yeah, the Sark isn't that great against my opponent's comp, but I did still want to show this video off just because how do you pass up Mimic Chest Sark? We get an Applewood, and that winds up scamming the Jormungand, and then actually, we're huge enough. Like, everything that we summon gets plus 18. So these creatures are just huge here. We're actually just able to take out the Lancelot, and we didn't even need the Medusa. And there you go. There is the power of Pumpkin and the power of the Grandmother. And we even have the For Glory as a little bit of BM. So there you go. I do think that this was like one of my most powerful games of the pumpkin, and I just realized that I owe this APOC an apology. We also lost to the ghost. So that ghost was doing some sweet stuff. That it wound up taking out APOC for us, and it wound up beating us for a little bit of damage as well. But that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'm NoLucksGiven. Peace.